Okay, this is my first YouTube instructional video. Now, I've kind of already finished the job, but I'll explain what I did. I got a phone call during the middle of the video, so it kind of cut it out, and I wasn't able to restart it. But a lot of people that have had to deal with these quick detach fittings for the heater core on these GMC and Chevrolet pickups, Silverados, Sierras, Tahoes, Yukons, they've had issues with getting the quick disconnects to actually quickly disconnect. So I've tried to use this quick disconnect tool. I couldn't really get it to go in on this passenger side tube right here. So what I did was, while it was on there, of course, because I couldn't get it off, I used a soldering iron to melt. I made different cuts into the plastic. And one of the reasons I did this is not the official method. It's not not technically what you're supposed to do, but when it won't come off, there's not really any other options. You could cut it off, but you risk cutting your tube or nicking the tube. And if you do that, you'll have a leak. So what I decided to do was just to melt pieces of the plastic and break it off until I could get it off without pulling on it too hard, because you don't want to pull on your heater core too much, because you could actually crack it on the inside and then you're having to remove your whole dash. But in any event, what I did was I just melted different pieces. Of course, whenever you're doing this, you need to collect all of your coolant, and you want to do it when the engine's cool so that way you don't burn yourself, and you don't want to be dumping coolant all over the place. But if that's what I was able to do, I was able to just melt little lines into the plastic. You got to be patient. You can't, rush through it. You don't want to melt any wires or anything like that, so be careful where you're putting the little soldering iron. But in any event, I got it off without breaking anything other than the quick detach that needed to come off. So I thought I'd share that little tip. I just used, like I said, a little soldering iron and just melted, cuts into this right here, and then finally was able to get it off. Like I said, the quick detach tool wasn't working. It wouldn't go in there. On the other tube it did, but the teeth wouldn't come out on that, so I had to cut that apart. I used a Dremel tool, but you have to be extremely careful that you don't nick that tube, and so I had to keep stopping and checking and stopping and checking to make sure I didn't mess that up. But anyway, I got them both off, so I figured I'd try this other method, and I figured I'd share it with everybody. So good luck, and hopefully you don't have to change these out too often. And here's some of the pieces that I broke off of it, so you can see I kind of, I melted through it. I just kept breaking off each piece that I could until finally it was able to come off. This one's a little bit easier to do than the Tahoes that have the rear heat, or the Yukons, because they have an extra little tab that comes down for the rear heater core. So you just, that you might, you could cut on those as well with little nippers or little nipping cutter pliers. I found that was easier to get back in there. But this was actually a pretty easy method. I've seen somebody heat up an iron before and melt it, but that you had to have a torch for that to get that red hot. And this, it just stayed consistently hot, so I could melt it off. I always suggest wearing eye protection and whatever other protection you can wear. I was wearing gloves when I did this also, so, and again, do it when the engine's cool, so that way you don't burn yourself. And again, collect all your fluids, because you don't want to pollute the environment. That's not good for anybody. So again, that was made the job not so hard, not so frustrating. You do have to be a little bit patient. It won't happen in 5 minutes. You may have to take about 10 minutes or so just working with it. But saves a lot of money going to a mechanic. Or maybe a mechanic may watch this and may give you an extra idea, hopefully. But anyway, good luck. And this was on a 2001 Silverado. And, multiple different years that use this. I think they did on the Tahoes all the way up to 2014. And then they went to some other kind of connector. But thanks for watching, and good luck.